Good morning, class. I just finished reading your What is Sales assignment. Really good responses. I love seeing the photos of what people thought were sales, like a lot of Amazon and a lot of car sales people, which is very standard. I think that is a what a lot of people think about when they think about sales. But what I want to do here is answer some of your questions you had because this is on top of your mind. This is something you're curious about. So I want to make sure that we address some of your questions. I might turn this into a two-part video so it's not too long, and there will be a quiz attached to this just because I want to make sure you're listening to me. You're not just, glazing over this. So the first question I have here is the question I have about sales is what's next. Although I strongly believe online sales are going to be what we rely solely on pretty soon, I could be completely off and something else would happen. Another question I have is how long will smaller corporations and businesses last with an Amazon offering its own products or services? So I want to answer the second question first because I think that's a shorter answer. Big companies traditionally do go after really big markets. But what that does is it leaves openings for small businesses to take over those smaller markets. So while Amazon will still get a big share of business, there will be smaller pieces of things for small businesses to get to take because they're more nimble, because they can, they don't need as many customers, a lot of these small businesses, to sustain a company. Amazon needs to make billions of dollars. A small business, if they're making $250,000 a year, that's a one-person show, that's plenty of business for them to rely on. Yes, you are correct that big business can they have better tax incentives, they have a larger workforce, they have more budgets, things like that. But there's still plenty of room for small businesses, and you're seeing that around. But other industries, that Amazon takes on, they have been able to squish some of that competition out, make the market a little smaller. But people adapt. New businesses spurt up. Some businesses die off. It's just evolution. So there's still plenty of space for other companies, in my opinion. So this question is about just everything going online. And what I would say is I want to relate this back to sales, is look at when you go on any website that they have the chat function. And that chat function is to talk to somebody in sales. I recently purchased a laptop. I had a very specific question about this laptop. I'm shopping around. And when I used that chat button, I was able to get some questions answered that I couldn't find on thing, like what was the average battery life? What kind of warranty do you have? I was really curious about what if I don't like it, can I return it? Because I was buying this one direct. I wasn't buying it through Amazon. So I think even though we do see a lot more things going online, we still need salespeople. A robot is not going to answer those questions for me. They're too specific. And furthermore, heavy items, I think we're still going to see things that aren't able to be shipped through Amazon, like home improvement. Like I don't see Home Depot and Lowe's going anywhere anytime soon. Or a mattress company. Yes, we have all these Caspers and these inflatable foam mattresses, but if you want a spring mattress, a mattress with physical springs in it, which some people still prefer that, you probably want to go to a mattress store and sit on some mattresses before you buy something. So and cars, right? People still want to test drive. They want to talk to a car salesperson. Not everyone, and you're absolutely right that there is a trend that online sales is growing, but you're still seeing retail have some advantages that online sellers do not have. And look at Amazon. If you don't know, Amazon is opening up their own stores now. There's one in Berkeley called Amazon 5-Star. Go ahead and Google it. It's really interesting. It's basically all products that are like 4 or more star, maybe it's 4-star, 4 or more stars, like highly rated items. Really interesting. And then also Amazon is opening up Amazon Go, and they bought Whole Foods. So, they obviously see that it's not all online. They do need to also supplement that with retail and other operations. All right, next question. I have many questions about sales. First of all, I want to know how business owners or just sellers in general stay afloat when going up against larger and more established businesses. I kind of answered that in the last one. How does one separate themselves from the rest when there's very high chance that many others are trying to do or already doing what you want? I also want, okay, so first, like I said, with small businesses, because these big companies are so big and they're going after really big companies, it leaves a lot of smaller things, a lot of sediment on the bottom that a lot of these small businesses could go after. Right? So don't think that these big businesses are serving everyone. They're serving a large population, but there's certain people they can't serve, and that leaves it open to some smaller companies. And as I mentioned, some people still prefer salespeople. Okay, here's a good example. Travel agencies. A travel agency is a company that helps you book your travel. We have kayak.com, Priceline, hotels.com, and anybody who knows anything about computers can book their own travel. It's not that hard. But there's still a large audience. And it's not just older people. You think, oh, old people who don't understand the internet. No, I think a lot of people, especially if you have a complicated trip where you're going to be going to different states and countries, it might be nice to work with a travel agent who knows that local area, who's an expert, and you want to pay them to get your perfect experience. So I would argue why, if you know, that's how small businesses compete, is they become experts in very specific industries or knowledge base, something for a certain product or service, and the big businesses can't compete with that. They can't train their staff that deliberately. There's problems when you scale. Okay. The rest, this is very high chance that many others are trying to do what you're, okay. How do you figure out what people want? Wow, that's the golden question, isn't it? I'm the really simple answer to this, where you should start, is asking the right questions. If you really want to know what somebody wants or how to help someone else, you have to ask really good questions. And that's in a later chapter in the book, but it really has to do with open-ended questions, why are you buying this? In the perfect world, if this was working perfectly for you, where would you be using it? You want to find out how they're going to be using the product or service, and what is success, or what is a really good product to them. You need to find out what their issues are. If you can find out what their problems are, you can then relate your product or service of, okay, well, if you buy this, we will solve these problems by doing A, B, and C. And if they could see that correlation, they could see that will help them. I think that's how they'll figure out that it's what they want. Somebody else later in here, though, says something about, salespeople are misleading. They just tell you whatever you want to hear. And that is against, don't do that. There are lots of bad salespeople in the world. Don't be one of them. Don't lie. Be honest. And salespeople should be there to help you out. They shouldn't be doing that. There are some bad ones. How does one grow as a seller, whether it's growth in the business or just in their selling skills as an individual? Taking a class. I've taken the Dale Carnegie training. I've done many sales classes. And the biggest thing for me also is experience and doing it yourself. This is an online class, so you're not going to get a lot of verbal talking, but you're going to learn how to ask questions. You're going to learn how to, handle objections. And you're going to learn how to write. And you're going to learn how to ask for a call to action, and many other things you're going to learn in this class. And I think if you start implementing that and trying it out on your own, you'll become a much better salesperson. Is there something you should be practicing? Yeah, you should be practicing, being a good learner, being a good listener. I think that's something that people don't think about. I'm talking a lot, and I feel like I've talked way too much. And if we were in a selling transaction, I would ask questions and I would shut my mouth and I would just listen. And you would then give me all kinds of information, hopefully, if the person can respond. Some people don't talk a lot, but many people, if you give them the opportunity, they will tell you everything, right? And so a good salesperson is listening, and they're listening for cues and information that'll help them serve them better. Right? It will solve their problem. Okay, we're almost at 10 minutes here. I'm going to do one more. I would really like to see different ways to connect with customers and ways to pitch sales. Also, how do you find a balance between making your sales targets and ensuring you're still happy customers and they don't just feel like a dollar sign to you. Yeah, I kind of mentioned that earlier. Don't be deceitful. It's a long game. Especially if you get a good sales job. And I think some people, they see the used car salesman is just like, get them in a car no matter what. And there are companies that do that. Some of these questions are more about sales careers. I think if you choose the company correctly, they're going to have realistic sales goals, and so you don't have to do things like what you're saying here of like cut a salesperson just like sell. Those are, I feel like those are dying off. And people don't repeat business to those companies because it's like, oh, that made me feel icky. I don't want to buy that place again. So I feel like the right way of sales is changing. Find a good company. So another thing I'm reading here is how do you connect with different customers? And as you see here, I like to talk. I come across as an extroverted, kind of a lot of energy. And some people really like that. And other people are kind of like, whoa, dial it down a little bit. You're too much for me. How much coffee did you drink this morning? And I get that. So if I come across, in my experience, when I came across people who we didn't really gel really well, I would then change my outlook. I would then, when I called them the next time or when I talked to them the next time, I would write a note and say, okay, dial it back a little bit. And I would do that. If that didn't work, third attempt, I would actually hand it off to somebody else. Companies I've worked with, I'm not the only salespeople. There are other people around me, and they have different personalities. And at some point, I have to say, well, I'm not connecting to this person, but I do think that they're a good candidate for this product or service. So I'm going to pass it on to Sally over here. Hey, Sally, I really think your personality is going to fit with this person really well. And here's the information. Here's what I've talked to them about. You should call them. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that at all. I mean, obviously you want to try multiple times on your own first, but if you're not getting anywhere with someone, you need to think about other strategies. And it could be you. Because some people in sales are buying the salesperson. They're not necessarily buying the product and service. They want the relationship. That's another thing that people buy. And that's another answer to question one, which is, how do you sell when these big businesses aren't? Big business doesn't give you good relationships. Think about banking. You call your credit card company. Those are not, in my experience, I do not have a pleasant interaction with my bank. Chase. I use Chase, but I've used Wells Fargo. I've used a lot of them, and I've had some good experience. I've had some bad, but that's something with a big corporation is you get very canned answers. You don't get a personal relationship. Where if I go to like a local credit union or I go to a smaller business, I can have a way better one-on-one relationship, and I'm willing to pay more for that. So that's how small businesses compete. As well. So I only got through a few of these questions, but I don't want to keep going forever. So we'll do a part 2 where I answer more of these questions. Go ahead and attempt the quiz. And if you have an additional question or you want to add to my next video, feel free to post that in the discussion post for questions about this class. Okay, thank you. Have a great day, and I'll be seeing you soon.